I just want to say thank you for doing this interview with me because I'm a huge fan of yours. So before we start,
Oh,
could you
thank
just
you.
yeah, before we start, could you just give a quick introduction of who you are? Just like yeah.
Yeah, so my name is Samira Al Bitar and I represent Bahrain. Um, I've been swimming, I started swimming when I was 6 years old and I've been swimming since then. 4 years ago, I switched from swimming to triathlon, and that's kind of what I do right now. I train for triathlon events, and at
Yeah.
the same time, I work at my job, which is a charity for drowning prevention and water safety in Bahrain.
Oh, okay. So you're not swimming like for the Bahrain team anymore, right? You're just doing triathlons.
No, yeah, so I'm with the national team for triathlon. So I think my last competition was in
Oh, okay.
2013. It was the World Championship in Barcelona, and that was the last proper swimming competition I've participated with the association here.
Yeah.
And then since then, I've moved into triathlon, and now I just compete for Bahrain in triathlon. So we just came back from the Asian Games. We have the West Asian Games coming up, and then just a few local races in Bahrain.
Yeah. Okay. So I just have a
Yeah.
few questions laid out in front of me, so don't mind me looking down here. I'll just be looking at it.
All right.
Yeah, just in case, because I want to make sure I ask you all the good questions. So I'll just ask you,
Yeah.
what was it like swimming in the 2004 and 2008 Summer Olympics?
It was a wonderful experience. When I first went the first time in 2004, I was a little bit young, so I didn't understand what the Olympics were. I knew it was a big competition, it was nice, but I didn't really get what the Olympics were. And then 2008, of course, was a completely different experience. It was an amazing experience. I'm very grateful for having the opportunity to represent Bahrain at such games, and definitely it really opens your eyes when you compete against the best people in the world and just seeing how they train, how they prepare. It's definitely an unforgettable experience, and hopefully that's like something for Arab women to start thinking about being able to go to the Olympics, to represent their country. It's something very doable and achievable, especially in swimming. For example, in triathlon, it's extremely difficult because there's only 60 men, 60 names
Yeah.
altogether. So there's only one race, whereas in swimming, there are many different races that you could get the opportunity to go represent your country either with a wild card or by qualifying. So for Bahrain, we went by getting a wild card, so we don't have the qualifying times. But I was fortunate to be able to represent Bahrain twice at the games.
Yeah. So how did it feel to represent Bahrain?
It was such a great experience, and especially the opening ceremony, like when you walk in and
Oh, that's
uh,
cool.
see all the country. It was a great experience, and it's always nice um, to be racing at these events because a lot of people don't know where Bahrain is. So it's nice
Yeah.
to also showcase where we are, what we do, to change people's perspective, because a lot of people think that, oh, we're all covered, we can't do anything, we're
Yeah.
oppressed. So it's as much as it is going to represent Bahrain for swimming, it's also good to go represent the country and show that we are progressive. We do have women's rights. We do have women that can actually play sports. That
Yeah.
it's not as oppressive as people think it is.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, have you ever been criticized for being like a swimmer or a female swimmer in the Muslim world?
Yes, yes. So when I was younger, it used to be a huge topic, especially with the swimsuit.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of people that would criticize us for why would we have a team with females that are wearing swimsuits, that
Yeah.
are representing the country in such events. And it's, some people are very supportive, some people are very against it.
Yeah.
And when I was younger, it really affected me because it used to be something in the newspaper.
Oh,
It was a
wow.
really big deal for me, but thankfully I had parents that were very supportive, and they told me just ignore everyone around you, and
Yeah.
if this is what you want to do, go for it. And I'm very glad I did, because swimming opened a lot of doors for me, whether it's going to compete in different countries, meeting new people, and then of course to the job that I do right now.
Yeah.
It all goes back to my swimming career.
Well, like how when you get
So there's,
criticized, how did you get over it? Wait, sorry.
so there's a lot of ups and downs, but there's more ups than the downs. Okay, people will criticize you no matter what, whether you're doing the right thing or the wrong thing.
Yeah.
There's always going to be people that are not happy with what you do. And when I was younger, I didn't realize that. You just look at the bad part and you forget about all of the good aspects that come out of the sport. So it's just very important for parents, parent support, friends supporting you. So then you kind of forget the background noise. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That makes sense. So what would be like the most frustrating stereotype that you encounter?
Stereotype. Oh. It's not much of a stereotype, but it's because at the end of the day, we're a Muslim country. Some people don't agree that we should be wearing a swimsuit in front of men, and that's understandable. Some people have that view. Some people are more open-minded, and for me, I think of it as a sport. I'm not wearing the swimsuit to like showcase anything. It's the uniform of the sport. You can't wear anything else, So it's just interesting, and you just have to learn how to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because there will always be people that criticize you no matter what you do. And especially with swimming, it's a sensitive topic. So in Bahrain, we also had a lot of girls that joined the sport, but when they reach the age of, let's say, 14, 15, their parents prefer that they don't continue in the sport, and that's just normal.
Yeah.
Just because some parents maybe don't want their daughters to be in such a sport after a certain age, but and that's fine, as long as they don't. What's the word? As long as, let's say for me, it's fine if you don't want to compete against men and you just want to do it in your own private home, whatever. But I think every woman should have the opportunity to participate in sport because it's a great thing. It's very good for your lifestyle, and it teaches you a lot of life lessons.
Yeah. So what advice would you give young girls who are starting swimming or that are being criticized for swimming? What advice would you give them?
I would say you have to try as best as you can to block all of the noise. And as long as you have parents that support what you're doing, for me, the most important thing is my family's support. If they are okay with me swimming, then I should just continue. I shouldn't stop unless I wanted to stop. I shouldn't stop because people are criticizing me. And it's very difficult because I know when I was younger, there were so many times, like every time an article would come up, I would just be like, you know what, I've had enough. People at school would be telling me, oh, I read the article, and it's like embarrassing. It angers you. There's a lot of emotions that come out of it.
Yeah.
But you just have to try as much as you can to just focus on your goal. And if this is the sport that you love doing, you have to deal with it a bit. And at the end of the day, what's nice is, okay, I started swimming with Bahrain in 2002, and there weren't that many women, and it was unacceptable for women to train with men.
Yeah.
That was impossible. So I kind of feel that with myself and a few other females that kept training, we just ignored the noise. Now we have a team that trains with the men. They have more opportunity because we didn't let that ruin the sport, So I always think about it as I'm going to have to suffer, but the people after me will have a smoother journey.
Yeah. So you were the second girl on the Bahrain national team, were you, or am I wrong?
Yeah, no, that's correct. So basically in 2000, Bahrain had a girl that went to the Sydney Olympics.
Yeah.
But back then we didn't have a women's team.
Yeah.
Excuse me. So in 2002, they created a women's team.
Yeah.
So the women's team was established, and we had a proper team of around 14 Bahraini girls.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it was a big number, and then we had a problem because we didn't have a swimming pool. So the swimming pool was being demolished to build the current pool that we have. So there was 5 years where there was no facility for the females to train.
Yeah.
So that's kind of when the team fell apart. I would still continue training, but at a private facility.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then in 2009, the pool was completed, the 50-meter pool that we currently have. And now we actually have a team that trains continuously and is competing and representing Bahrain.
So you guys swim separately, male and female? Still swim separately?
When I was swimming, that was how it is. So we couldn't swim with the guys. I think now some age groups they can swim together.
Yeah.
And some can't. But for example, for triathlon, we don't have many females on the national team. We have a lot of females that are doing triathlon, but not on the national team. So when we're using the swimming pool that the association uses, I use the last lane, and then the men use the other lanes.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But we train at the same time because that's the only time the triathlon association has the pool.
Okay, so would you say that being a triathlete has helped you in swimming? And do you think there's a big difference between the two of them? Do you like both of them equally, or like?
Well, I think it's the opposite way around. Being a swimmer really helped me with triathlon.
Oh, yeah.
So the biggest challenge with a lot of people getting into triathlon is they don't have a swimming background. So for me, that was very easy because I had the swimming background. And in terms of technicalities, swimming is the most technical sport out of the three.
Yeah.
So if you know swimming from a young age, it'll be very easy to transition into triathlon because biking and running you can get eventually.
Yeah.
But if it's the opposite way around, it's more difficult. But that's not to say that you can't do it. There's a lot of people that have never done sports and they've really worked hard and now they do half Ironman and full Ironman even without a swimming background.
Yeah.
But for me, I think triathlon is more of a sport that's a lifelong sport. So it's not short distance sprints. For a while, my times weren't improving in swimming for a long time, actually. So I just decided there's no future in swimming because it's going to keep getting harder the older I get.
Yeah.
The less speed I'm going to have.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided to try triathlon.
Oh, okay.
And it's been a wonderful journey. It's a very nice sport. It's very different. It's more relaxed. I don't get as nervous before a race because you have a lot of time to make up for any mistake. Whereas, for example, if you're swimming the 50-meter freestyle, you don't have much time for error because you have one go.
Yeah. So we were talking about the triathlons and stuff. So would you say triathlons are harder than swimming easier than swimming because you don't have to you can think sort of. Is that what I got from it?
It's not easier. It's just completely different. With triathlon, you have to learn 3 different sports, and each sport has its own training. What I like about it is you don't have to do the same thing every day for 4 hours. Whereas with swimming, you're just swimming laps every day, twice a day. With triathlon, it's like, okay, one day I have swimming and biking, one day I have 2 sessions of running. You keep changing.
Yeah.
Which I like. I feel after so many years of swimming, I was ready for that change.
Yeah.
And it's nice to be able to use my experience in swimming and then use it for triathlon. So something just different.
Yeah. Okay, that's cool. So when you were a swimmer, what was the most challenging part for you? Was it waking up, doing the same thing as you said, or?
For me, I guess there's a lot of different factors just because over here our training wasn't so consistent. So let's say I would train for a few months and then a few months there would be no pool or you wouldn't be able to train. So my times would not improve, whatsoever. So for a few years I was just at the same time, and then it gets really frustrating because I'm trying. But then I went to the States and I joined my university's swim team. And then you realize how different of a training approach they have in the States than they do to what we are doing over here. So just seeing the level they're at and where we are at, it was frustrating to see that we weren't doing more.
Yeah.
Because there was a lot of room of improvement that we could have done, but just some circumstances, whether it be the pool, different reasons that it didn't work out. But what's nice is seeing where we were in 2002 and where the team is now. There's been a huge improvement.
Yeah.
So they train more often. They have the facility. They have the coaches. They're doing a lot more dry land strength training. So it's nice to see my journey. I've definitely trained, but I didn't train as much as I should have.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. If I could go back, I don't know if I would change that, because I also wanted to live my life. I wanted to go out with my friends. I didn't, you know, like with just training 2 to 3 hours a day, I felt I was still losing a lot of my time, let's say, with going out with my friends. Some of the summers I couldn't travel because we would have a competition. But I'm happy with my journey in the swim team. You know, it was a nice experience, and I wouldn't change much, but maybe I would have tried harder.
Yeah. So would you say your coach, like who coaches you and who trains you, would you say it has a huge impact on how fast you race and how you improve, or would you say it's not really an important factor to you?
No, I think it's important, but it's not the most important factor. You definitely need a good coach, but at the same time, you need to put in the hours. At the end of the day, it's all what you give in. I can go to practice every day, but I can be going really slow the whole time, and I would be telling the coach, "Oh, I'm really tired. I can't do it." But in reality, I could. So I feel that the responsibility is more on the athlete.
Yeah.
But in some circumstances, maybe the training could be better. But I would say I would look at myself first and make sure that I'm doing everything he's telling me to do to my best ability. And if that's not working, then I'll start looking at the other factors of why I'm not improving.
Yeah.
In my case, I definitely know I should have put in more effort. I should have trained more. There's a lot of things that I could have changed that maybe would have improved my time.
Yeah. Well, how do you keep motivated when swimming? How do you keep going, waking up every morning, doing the same thing every day?
See, with me, I love the sport and I love training. I'm not a huge fan of racing. So I enjoy going to practice. I enjoy swimming a lot. So it wasn't a problem for me. But at the same time, some days I need to know that there's somebody waiting for me at the pool for me to go.
Yeah.
With triathlon, for example, I use an online coach. So some days I really don't feel like training. And just because there's nobody waiting for me, for example, at the pool or at the track, I say, okay, today I'm not going to do it. I'll just make it up tomorrow. And then in reality, that barely ever happens, because then I have next day's training. But I feel as I got older, the days that I don't train, it's fine. It's not the end of the world, you know.
Yeah.
I'll just start fresh from the day after.
Yeah.
And just seeing other athletes and what they do, that sometimes motivates me. It's like, okay, I need to work harder. Look at how much they've improved. Maybe if I do this, do that, I'll also improve. So it's a bit of both.
Yeah. So when you felt like giving up, sort of, were there times when you felt like giving up, and how did you get out of it?
Yeah, there were many times where I thought, why am I doing this? You know, I'm not racing to go win the Olympic medal or especially now. I'm much older. I'm 28 right now. I'm married. I have a job. So sometimes I'm like, why am I doing this? But at the end of the day, I think, what would I do with my life if I don't do this, you know?
Yeah.
I'll have so much free time. So some of the days where I don't have training, I'm like, the time is not moving. I don't have anything to do. Yeah. So it gets... So I'm glad I have the sport, because then it forces me to get into a proper routine. My schedule is set. I have limited time of the other things that I do, so I don't get lazy. So I'm more productive actually when I have training. If I don't have training, I just end up watching Netflix, sitting at home and not moving much.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your lifestyle, you're married and you probably must be busy with work and stuff. So how do you keep balanced, every day?
Yeah, so that's the good thing with swimming. It really teaches you time management, especially from the school days when you had to swim, you had to go to school, you have to do your schoolwork. So it's kind of the same thing. So I just make sure I plan everything ahead of time.
Yeah.
And sometimes something comes up and you just can't do the training, and you just have to get over it, you know. I can't keep thinking, oh, I missed my practice. You know, I just, okay, today it's not possible. I'm not going to train because let's say I have work. Okay, I have 50 minutes. I can go for a run, and that would be my training for the day. So it's just being flexible and also really planning what you have for the next day.
Yeah.
So I just basically, from the night before, I prepare my clothes. I go, let's say I have swimming. From swimming, I change. I have my work clothes. I go to work. I finish work, change for my other training, finish that, and then go back home, have dinner with my husband, and then it's a repeat, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of the routine I'm getting into.
So how do you keep your body still working after all of this? Do you get like sports massages? Do you stretch? Like, how do you make sure your body gets everything it needs? Because you must be doing so much, and it must be like very tiring. Oops, did not hear.
The worst person to ask this question to, because I don't follow my own advice. So I'm terrible with stretching. Now though, because I got an injury, now it's too late. Now I'm forced to get so I have a massage therapy every week.
Yeah.
And then every other week I have to go to physio.
Yeah.
I really have to focus on my stretching. So definitely a big part of training is recovery.
Yeah.
And that's not something I used to do before, and I wish I had done it earlier because it will really help you with injury prevention.
Yeah.
And the problem is I'm the type, like, I didn't really put that much focus onto it until it became essential, and I had a huge injury that there was no way out, or I wouldn't be able to compete or train. So definitely I would advise anyone to stretch, get regular massages if you're tight, go see a physio, do whatever possible to make sure that you don't train with any pain.
Yeah. So what about nutrition? Do you think that plays a huge role in like recovery?
Yeah, I think nutrition is very important. I don't I don't follow a specific diet, or I eliminate anything, or I limit myself. I love to eat, and it's not something I follow regularly. You know, I try to eat healthy, but there are some days where I want a chocolate, I want to eat chips, and I don't limit myself. I feel if I was training or if I was competing at the professional level, I would have to change that mentality, and you would have to really make sure what you're eating is right for your body, because when seeing the athletes that train at a very high level, their whole life is like they follow a proper plan, whether it's their sleeping regime, their nutrition, their food, their training, everything is really planned out to the extreme. But I feel just because I'm doing it for myself, I do it to compete on a local level. I'm not very strict with my diet.
Yeah.
But I do like to try to eat healthy most of the time.
Yeah. So before a huge triathlon or a huge swimming race, do you think your routine changes in like every day? Like, would you like speed up would you make your training more intense, or would you reduce it? Does anything change?
Yeah, definitely. So, for example, 2 weeks ago, we had just come back from the Asian Games. So I was at the Asian Games competing in the triathlon event. So a week before, my training definitely dropped. There's a lot more sprint work. You start tapering for the race, and definitely your food and my food changed a bit. I was eating a bit more carbs, so a lot of pasta and rice, especially the night before or 2 nights before the race, and then rest. So the good thing about traveling to a different country for a race is there's not much that you will be doing before the race. So it was literally just training, eating, sleeping, and then training, sleep. You know, it was just a routine, and you definitely need to rest your body before the race.
Yeah.
And like mentally focus on what you're going to be doing.
Yeah.
So in triathlon, because there's a lot of components, the day before, I just go over where you have to exit from the swim, where you get your bike, how you get out of transition, and then the bike route. So there's a lot more things that you have to take into consideration. You have to prepare your nutrition, so like your water, your electrolytes, making sure you have some kind of gel or something to eat. So there's just different things that you need to think about, and it's definitely very important to plan everything before the day of the race.
Yeah. So speaking of like eating and like supplements and stuff, would you recommend young swimmers to take protein powders and supplements, or do you think it's a bad idea?
To be honest, I don't know much about that area because I'm not somebody that likes to take these things.
Yeah.
So I've tried different protein powders, but I'm not the type that is very consistent. So I don't take anything.
Okay.
But I feel some people have to like refer to a doctor or somebody that's more experienced, and if depending on their, like if they do a blood test, they see that let's say their iron levels are low, they would need supplements for that. So it just depends. I guess each person is different and what they prefer. But for me personally, I'm not a huge fan of taking these things because it's just one extra thing to think about. And if I don't need it, I'd rather just take all of these things from the food I eat.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you, do you have like a pre-race routine? Like before a race or a triathlon, do you do something specific, like listen to music? Do you have something you tell yourself?
With triathlon, not really. Basically, what I do is I just pretend that I'm doing the race. So I stand in front of the swim course that we're going to do. I just remind myself, okay, I need to go this way, this direction. We have this many laps. Then I walk through transition. So I walk from where we get out of the water, walk towards the area where we pick up our bike. I make sure that I know where my bike is, and then how I'm gonna go out, and then where's the line where you mount the bike, because there's a certain area where you can get on the bike, and then I just go over the map of the bike course, how many laps we're doing that, where I get off the bike, where I put back my bike, how I'm gonna take my running shoes, and then where the run route is. So that's kind of, I just walk through everything, just so I'm more familiar with it before the race.
So would you say, like, is it harder like mentally to be in a triathlon or a swim race? Because sort of in swim races you can just like do it without thinking, but in triathlons do you have to like keep thinking of what you're doing?
The thing is, for me, swimming was harder mentally because I would get so nervous, and it would just be like one race. If you mess up the start, your whole race is done.
Yeah.
But I feel because I used to get so nervous with swimming, that with triathlon now, it's because it's more easygoing.
Yeah.
You don't have to, okay, there's a lot more things that you have to think about, but if you practice these things and make sure you're familiar with the course, because each race is in a different location. So it's just a few days before I just start reading the race information booklet and make sure I know the key essential points, and then everything just flows easily.
Yeah.
Because with all of these things, you practice them during your training sessions.
Okay. Yeah. So when you were like full-time swimming, what were your favorite events?
So I used to like the longer distance events, but I would only swim the 50 and the 100. Sometimes the 200, but it was mostly the 50 and the 100.
Yeah.
Because the races that we used to go to were international races, and I just couldn't race. They were too fast.
Yeah.
For me to race anything longer than that. So yeah, the 50 and the 100. The 50 is nice because it ends really quickly.
Yeah.
But I also like the long distance ones because I'm better at long distance swimming, so it was more enjoyable, and at least you have some time.
Yeah. So this is gonna be a weird question. If you don't mind me asking, what do you do on your period? Like, when you're swimming? Like, does your routine change?
Yeah. So probably I usually don't really swim for some of the days, and then after that when I'm able to swim again, I do that. And even with triathlon, like usually my stomach hurts a lot,
Yeah.
so I don't train during those days if I'm in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
With triathlon, what's nice is I can do running and biking,
Yeah.
and you don't have to swim on these days.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. What other questions? So, which countries / competitions have you swam in, or have you done triathlons in?
Triathlon
or swimming.
So
whatever.
Yeah, so swimming, I participated in both the Olympic Games. I participated in the Asian Games in Qatar. I've also participated in, I think, 5 of the World Championships, and then a lot of races in Jordan and Egypt and Morocco. For triathlon, it's more local races. I just came back from Indonesia. We have a lot of races in Jordan and Egypt. And then I've been to Taiwan and Thailand, so a lot of the Asian countries. And then, of course, I participated in the Super League, which was in the UK.
Yeah.